Korean offer valid through 12/31/2023. Subject to change without notice. Offer available on approved purchase of select new unregistered Kawasaki vehicles. Model and year exclusions apply. Cannot be combined with promotional retail financing rates.
Attention all Wings fans. 89-cent wings are back on Tuesdays at Buffalo Wings and Rings in Lincoln. Enjoy the best wings in town for boneless or traditional at a price that makes the whole family happy. And now at the Williamsburg Village Wings and Rings, you can enjoy $1.50 tall boys in Bud Light, Coors Light, Busch Light, and Michelob Ultra every day after 7 p.m. and all day on Sundays. Get to Wings and Rings today and make sure to stop by on Tuesdays for 89-cent wings.
New year, new career. The new year is just around the corner. Why not start it off strong with a new career? General Excavating is looking for qualified underground utility project managers. Check out our website, generalexcavating.com, or call 402-467-1627 for more information. Happy holidays from General Excavating.
Babe, pack your bags. We're going to Vegas.
Vegas?
We just got the estimate from the wedding caterer, and we're going to have to elope.
Actually, Members Owned Credit Union is offering no-fee home equity lines of credit. We can borrow what we need with equity from the house.
Wait, so we can keep the bacon-wrapped dates for the cocktail hour?
We can keep the bacon-wrapped dates. From wedding bells to trekking the globe and everything in between, capture your dreams your way with a no-fee Members Owned Credit Union home equity line of credit. Learn more at membersownedheloc.org. Limitations may apply. Equal housing lender.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
At Allo, we believe in the exceptional. From extraordinary whole home coverage to super fast speeds, our local teams are always on hand to make sure your service is running at top performance. Let go of lag, banish buffering, and enjoy outstanding service throughout your entire home. We believe in delivering nothing less than exceptional service, so that's exactly what we do. Visit us at allofiber.com to experience the exceptional.
It's the holiday season. Time for work parties, friend get-togethers, family gatherings, which means lots of eating. Maybe you think you've perfected your holiday meals, and maybe you have no idea where to even start. Let's fix that right now. No holiday party is complete without Führer's cheese spread. It goes well with any type of cracker, pretzels, apple, chili, vegetables, chips, and of course, it's perfect to pair with wine or beer. Holiday meals aren't complete until Führer's cheese spread is on the table. Find your own container at your nearest local grocery store today.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your lengthy forecast for today, some clouds this morning will give way to sunshine this afternoon. It'll be breezy but warm. We'll see a high of around 50. Tonight, mainly clear skies expected with a low around 29. And tomorrow, most cloudy skies do return. We'll see a high of around 50. Meteorologist Kyle Klecker from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. I'm Harrison Arns on the ones and twos. This is the Don't Punt Hour, and we're, of course, joined by, as always, the host of the show, DeMornay Pearsonell. DeMornay, how's it going, man?
It's good, and yourself?
Doing solid here. It's actually a pretty warm day for December 18th. Nonetheless, of course, we have signing day tomorrow. Should be a fun one as well. And if you guys want to join the show, as always, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. But DeMornay, with signing day coming tomorrow, of course, the questions that we all want answered should come to fruition here. We'll probably have some back pocket signings that Matt Rule has stashed in his pocket that will learn some new names as well. But what was that signing day like for you in your experience, DeMornay?
It was a dream come true, you know, like you were in college. I mean, when you were in high school and, you know, you dream of, you know, going to a university and continue playing football. You know, that's the day that, you know, like it's all over. Like you've accomplished it of, you know, setting that goal of saying that you want to go play at a university. So it's a real, weight off your shoulders type moment. And it was one of my favorite moments in my football career, because it comes to fruition with you actually being able to get accepted into a school, and it's only so long before you're there, either in the summer program or the winter program. So it's a very exciting day.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's one thing I want to ask you. With Dylan Raiola, I just don't want him to think that he's got to be the savior of this entire roster. I think he came here because he saw an offensive line that's going to be a little older. You're going to have a lot of seniors, juniors on there to really kind of help you. And then, of course, that defense coming back, he's going to have time to kind of get up to speed and be led by some of those other units on the team. But when it comes to Dylan Raiola, do you think that there's any pressure that could be on his shoulders that might affect his game? I think that with his dad being who he is and the history he's had, I'd imagine he's dealt with that pressure through his entire career playing football. But are you worried about that at all, about any pressure he might face with the Nebraska fandom putting a lot of hope into this 5-star recruit?
With pressure being put onto him, with pressure being put onto him, maybe. I would say it would be more so like the fans and everybody else that are, sometimes, the fair weather fans, 1 minute, they're happy, and then next minute, they turn on you. I'm more so concerned about those type of fans and how he kind of, deals with that, or like let things get to him. You're going to your father's alma mater, So there's a bit that that might come with that, with him and his career and where he got drafted and everything like that. But I think he's a level-headed kid to where he will weather that storm, and he has the pen to write his own destiny, and hopefully he sticks to his plan and doesn't let the outside blinders distract him, or those critics or anything like that get to him. He is a young player, and sometimes it takes time to develop and let the other things come to what they need to be at. He doesn't need to save the university in year one.
Absolutely. And that's one thing where I think he should be okay on that front. Like, he's confident, which is a good thing. I'd hope my quarterback's confident. But again, having that pressure since he was a kid, no matter where he went, his dad being who he is, he was going to have that expectation just about everywhere we went, and he's handled it well. Obviously, being the number one recruit in the country in the 24 class, he's done a good job up until that point. But with Dylan Raiola news, we will have to wait till tomorrow before we actually get to signing day. We'll hear a lot in the morning. Be sure to tune in for early break. They'll be sounding them in every single time there is a new commit for the University of Nebraska. But I know you're not here in studio. We were talking about the Mount Rushmore of Nebraska coaches and athletes. We can still do that one tonight. Otherwise, I got plenty of other topics we can move on to if you want to wait till you're in person in studio.
I'd rather in person. We can jump on that tomorrow.
All right, absolutely. And then Starter Heyman text line, think about that one as well for tomorrow, because it'll be me and Demorny again, 7 o'clock. We're going to go through the greatest coaches, athletes, or just Nebraska figures, whether they played the game or coached the game. You can even throw an AD in there if you really want, that represent the University of Nebraska, that immediately pop into your head. The Jordan Burroughs. Obviously, there's a plethora of volleyball players you can look at. John Cook, Tom Osborne. But we'll talk about that one next. But I want to ask you about this Nebraska basketball team, because I was talking about it with Amon Green, and what they've been able to do in that Kansas State game was utterly impressive. They hold Kansas State to 12 points in that entire second half. Yes, you can argue Kansas State wasn't running the most efficient offense. They were feeling like they were rushing things at times, but that's also hats off to Nebraska for never letting them get comfortable. You have Juwan Gary with a monster 18 rebounds, 11 of them being offensive boards. Rinkmass does his part as well, gets 12 rebounds, 19 points. So you have two guys with double-doubles, high rebounding numbers. Bryce Williams almost in that group as well. But looking at this front court, to me, that's been the most impressive part. They're currently on pace to make the tournament. But what about this Nebraska basketball team has been so impressive for you up until this point in the season?
They're finding ways to gel together, to play as a team, regardless of what people say they may or may not have, they're finding ways to get the job done. The chemistry, as you can see, it's starting to come out. They're playing very, very well together. So hopefully, they can continue that. Taking it one game at a time, and just keep their heads down, do what they need to do, and then hopefully, when they do look up, they do have a bid to the tournament, or they do go deep into the Big Ten tournament. So hats off to them. They definitely they have been moving in the right direction, and they're taking big jumps in that direction even more.
Yeah, and it's a good sign, right? Because you lose 2 games. The Creighton one, understandable. It wasn't understandable in the way you came out flat. But Creighton's a good team, a respected team, a tournament team year in, year out. That was on fire from the 3-point line. You don't want to say you excused that one, but it made more sense. The Minnesota game, I think that put a lot of people into a panic, because I still don't think Minnesota is going to finish out as a strong Big Ten team. So Nebraska basketball taking that loss to Minnesota, I think kind of put a shock into everyone's system. And they're like, okay, maybe we do need to reevaluate what the ceiling of this team is. And then you go ahead and see them beat Michigan State, a bad Michigan State team at the time. But Michigan State would go on to beat the number 6 team in the country in Baylor. That gives you some optimism. And then you have Kansas State on your plate. Again, you hold them to 42 points, 12 in the entire second half. I feel bad for Kansas State fans being in that arena. That would have to be a hard one to watch. But now they got this momentum back with them, and they have an opportunity. Typically, when they've been on this pace, if you go back to 2014, when they have been on this kind of run, they've made the tournament. It looks like right now, if the bracket was decided, they'd be one of the last 2 teams in there. So they are on pace. The basketball's looking good. You have multiple guys that are being your leading scorers. Your assist numbers are up. And again, the rebounds have just been awesome for Nebraska this season. When everyone was worried about the front court, what's going to look like without Derek Walker, the bully we had inside, they've done more than enough to kind of take care of that. And Rink Mast, Juwan Gary have been just electric on the boards. And even the smaller guys, Sam Hoiberg, not the biggest guy out there, but you won't ever see him not turning around and grabbing a body when the ball does hit the rim. But with that team, talking about the tournament, let's just paint it with a bigger picture. What if you were to pinpoint what's been the disappointing factor for Big Ten teams in the tournament? Why do they always seem to lose out early? You look at Michigan State and Wisconsin really being only teams in the past 10 years that have able to kind of make any sort of run deep into the March Madness, and everyone else, even Purdue, when they have had incredible regular seasons, playing teams from not just the Big Ten, all over conferences, racking up really good win-loss ratio, they'll still seem to lose early. What do you think has been that problem for Big Ten teams in particular, where they just can't make consistent deep runs into the tournament?
A lot of times I feel like, some of those teams, they're inconsistent. And depending on, where and when they are consistent, that affects them. It's kind of, the momentum shift swings and, or they're playing bad late into the season. It's just been a roller coaster ride, with some of those Big Ten teams. Like, you expect them to output, and their energy is just flat, or the team that they're playing just comes out and beats them. So for whatever reason, just matching up with some of these other conferences is they haven't been on their top game usually. And they just, like, the energy's low, and they get caught in the bind, and one game, you lose one game and you're done. So it's hard to do so. I know it's hard to that late in that season. You go through everybody, their own conference, tournaments and everything like that, and then turn right around and enter into another one. It's a bit difficult, but that's what makes it fun to watch, and bring the most out of each and everybody to compete. But the Big Ten as a whole, they just got to be more consistent on playing better basketball late in the season. Everybody has to bring their best, and I don't think that the Big Ten as a whole conference has shown up there at all.
That's a good point, because even looking at the Big Ten tournament, it's not consistent who wins that Big Ten tournament. You would think it's going to be typically your number one, your Purdue's, and even in recent years, you're going to be looking at Illinois for some of those better teams out there. But for the most part, even the Big Ten tournament before we get to March Madness has been inconsistent with the Big Ten. So you might be onto something there. And again, the thing that always perplexes me is the Big Ten takes pride in their defense, or at least the style of play indicates that defense is a big part of the DNA. Defense is the one thing that should travel with you regardless. You can get cold shooting the ball, but defense, you see it, college, NBA, the best defensive teams typically are better off making those deeper runs. For whatever reason, that same Big Ten defense, that pride that's always seems to be there on some of that slower play style, more half court sets, more defensive stops, it doesn't seem to travel for the Big Ten very well at all. And it could be a thing as simple as luck, or what you're saying, that style of ball when you're playing that inside out, when it becomes stagnant in the March Madness with the high pressure, the up and down, maybe that's where things fall south. Is there any Big Ten team this year that has been a big surprise for you? Obviously, Northwestern beating Purdue was a pretty big surprise there. Ohio State making a little bit of noise as well, sitting about in the middle of the pack. And then you could even answer with Nebraska, year 5 under Fred Hoiberg. I think people are expecting a better year, but maybe not to this level.
I wouldn't say anybody that necessarily has caught my eye. The slow start that Michigan State has had, was a bit surprising.
Mm-hmm. Top 5 coming
they're
in.
all kind of right then and there. It's still kind of early in the season. Stuff is still, it's approaching, getting into the middle of things. And they're about even, they're playing well, top to bottom. Any game, like you said, the Purdue and Ohio State game, you got to play every game. So nobody that stands out that's like, wow, I'm looking at okay, they're the team to beat, or they're shocking me, this and this and that. It's about what I would think it would be, where they're at. And like I said, as it gets closer, to crunch time and getting prepared for the tournament, what teams are more consistent, what teams are, playing well together and gelling on the offensive side and defensive side. I think, we'll have a long run, but there isn't anybody that sticks out that I can say, oh, it's them.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I think you'd want to say Purdue, because they have had an absolute gauntlet of a schedule early on. They've been taking care of business for the most part, but they have that weird loss to Northwestern. And Northwestern isn't a bad team by any means, but compared to the competition they were playing before, it was surprising that was their first loss. It's a little reminiscent of what they've dealt with in the tournament, where they have that one slip up to a team you don't expect, and that's what gets them out early. So I think Michigan State is a good answer as well. Seeing what they've been, that's still a team that I'm going to keep my eye on, especially after they beat number 6 Baylor. I was looking at them before that, but now, because they've had the athletes, they just got to put it together. That was one thing I noticed in that Nebraska game. Their offense, they weren't getting good shots. It didn't look like your typical Tom Izzo team, where they were getting it inside, running games through the inside, and then just setting it up for an easy 3-point shot, top of the key shot. They're really struggling to get anything that wasn't off one foot or fading one way or a fast runner down the lane. But now I think as the team continues to build that chemistry, that could be another team to watch going forward. But before we get out of here, as again, quick programming notes, we do have Omaha Westside versus Lincoln Southeast. It'll be Jay Foreman and Nick Sainert on the call for that one. We'll have you guys plugged in for that high school basketball game. Again, it is Omaha Westside at Lincoln Southwest, or excuse me, let me double check here. So I don't give you guys, yes. So at Lincoln Southwest, we'll have that one for you. Jay Foreman, Nick Sainert on the call as always, and we'll bring that to you all the way through the night. But looking at this Nebraska basketball team, with Jawan Gary having the season he's having, Keisei Tamanaga, he's had moments where he has kind of been on that pace where it looks like he's about to go off. Sam Hoiberg playing that defensive role, Rink Bass being the newcomer on that front court. Who has been, to you, the best player on the team consistently, game in, game out?
Ooh,
it's a tough question. You've had multiple leading scorers throughout the entire season.
The two that come to my head, I'm not sure of the names. I can tell you the numbers. I think is
maybe Bryce Williams can be one as well.
3. And what's the point guard that was on the national team for
Lawrence?
He was on the national. He was on the. What's he for?
Oh, Keisei Tamanaga.
I couldn't hear you. When
Keisei Tamanaga from Japan.
Yes, him. Those two. But between watching them play and everything like that, at times three he can get a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's mid range, whether it's driving, slashing to the basket, or shooting from three. He's good in transitional. And he plays pretty solid defense. So, he's been, someone who I've been watching play and whatnot. I mean, and then of course, the other cat, he's a energy, a burst
crowd
of energy
favorite for sure.
For them. He gets them in and out of transition. He's very active on the defensive side, not just, with steals or anything like that, whether it's, taking charges or, cutting off or hedging, when they switch on defenders and everything like that. So he's real active. And, on the offensive side, the offense definitely, the majority of the time, I would say flows through him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's on and hot, everybody else seems to kind of feed off that and play better. And then, if he kind of starts off slow, he might, somebody else, might jumpstart him and get him going.
Yeah, and this thing with Keisei Tamanaga, even if he's not shooting the ball or not getting a lot of shots up, the amount of pressure he puts on defenses having to chase him around that perimeter, because his trigger, it's insane to watch. It's seriously like NBA speed Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. He might not be making it at that same clip, but that shot release, I promise you, is just as quick. It's insane how fast he can get that thing off. And to your point with Bryce Williams, he's just been that consistent guy for the team. There's been a few moments, in particular that Minnesota game, where I think that might be his worst game of the season. But for the most part, he's been a consistent guy, especially down in stretches late, where he's been able to give that team some much needed offense. And I will say, if there's one thing to watch with this Nebraska team, is that they need to get a little more consistent offensively. It looks good for a half just about every game, but pull two solid halves together, I think the defense should stay where it's at right now and only continue to get better. And shout out to Sam Hoiberg for really being that defensive lock that they need out there to cool guys off. But nonetheless, this is going to wrap it up here for the Don't Punt Hour with the Mornay Pearsonell. Harrison Arns on the 1s and 2s. Don't go anywhere, though, because we have some high school basketball up next with Jay Foreman and Nick Sainert on the call. DeMornay Pearsonell, appreciate it as always, and I will talk to you again tomorrow at 7.
See ya.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Don't Punt Hour. Again, high school basketball up next. We'll talk to you guys in a little bit.